Yeah, unmute myself. So, Tim, I think if we are sticking to the schedule, it's time to start the event. Okay. So, open it and I will slowly start my introduction part. You just give me the sign when I can go. Okay. So, I would like to welcome everybody on this event organized by Alliance for Responsible AI. My name is Ato Momčilović, and I am a partner in one of the organizations that are founders of the Alliance, but you're going to hear a little bit more about us a little bit later. So we are going to have a schedule that is announced in advance. I would just like to say that this is our, let's say, first announcing event that is going to share some details about the Alliance, but it is not our first event. We had our actions and our events before. One of them was a webinar on the topic of AI and sports, which was organized also with the support of our colleague Philippe Blanchard, which I thank one more time in this opportunity. And we are doing many things, of course, in parallel. And one thing that we were working on in a few months was also Top of AI Startups Award, or to be more precise, ranking. So in very short, the agenda for today, first is going to be our keynote speaker, Marijn Marcus, that is going to talk about the topic with the name of "With great AI comes great responsibility." He is AI lead in Capgemini. After that, we are very happy to call Dr. Jassim Haji to give us and share a few information about the International Group of Artificial Intelligence, fast-growing group of AI experts from all around the world, which some of us are also the part of. Then we are going to discuss a little bit the Alliance, give the opportunity to all of the founding members to share a few of their ideas and motivations why we are in this project. And then in the second part, we invited our best startups in this ranking to present shortly their projects and their companies. So then we are going to have Mindsmith's Live Peaks presentation and Insect Intelligence presentation. After they finish, we are going to close event. So I think it is a good time now, without further ado, to give the microphone to the Marijn Marcus and invite him to give us his keynote lecture on the topic. So the floor is yours.
Thank you and good day, everyone. Marijn Marcus here. Let me start out by asking you the most exciting question of the day, which is, can you see my screen?
It is yeah, now we can see it.
So exciting. Great. Hey, thanks everyone for having me. I'm Marijn, I'm from the Netherlands, AI lead at Capgemini. And over the next 20 minutes, I want to talk with you about AI and the responsibilities that come with it. So yes, you can see my screen. Now, AI is a loaded term nowadays. I've noticed over the last 5 years that I've been in the field, because I didn't start out as an AI lead. I don't even know why they started calling me that. I started out as a data scientist in the field of sociology, out of all things. Before that, I was a statistician. And in the same way that everyone nowadays is doing AI, whereas 5 years ago, we just called it data science, before that, we just called it statistics, and it was not sexy at all. Before that, it was just data. We're just doing data. And in the end, most AI nowadays is still a form of regression algorithm, let's be honest. So I'm heavily confused when I, as a young scientist, entered the field of the labor market, and I was just doing R and Python to predict electoral outcomes, model good old pandemics like Ebola. And suddenly we called all of it AI. We called all of it data science rather than just good old science statistics. Or even before that, just being a nerd. Because back in the day, I was just called a nerd for doing this kind of stuff. But to my surprise, the questions we asked ourselves 5 and 10 and 30 years ago, ethical questions about the rules and the responsibilities that come with it, are still very viable nowadays. And not just the questions coming from comic books like Spider-Man, but the questions that come from using data. On an entirely different topic, let me congratulate you all. Happy Singles Day, everyone. Today is Singles Day. Did you know that? It's the economical counterpart to Valentine's Day, where you buy.
Oh, I think that we lost you for a few seconds here, Marijn. Oh, it seems that his connection broke. So let's give him a minute to return. Interesting.
That's the meaning of single day.
Yeah, but it has an interesting data story behind it. We were discussing it yesterday. Tim, the Zoom offered me to, like the host asked you to start your video. What should I click?
I think you should click the start video button into the left top bottom side. We can't see you.
No, yeah, okay, no, I just stopped.
Yes.
Okay, my video, but the camera is not important. But let me check with Marijn through other channels if he's able to retrieve his connection back. If Marijn is not going to be able to come in a few minutes, then of course we will go to our next stage and call Dr. Jassim to give us information about International Group of AI, but I would like to give a minute or two to Marijn to return. Okay, so Marcus is returning, but he will need a few minutes. So maybe to use this time, so Dr. Haji, are you available at the moment to use this opportunity to then give you the first place of the first keynote speaker to share the information about the International Group? I think it's the good timing now for you to step in.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Echo. Good morning or afternoon, depending where you are. Assalamu alaikum. I'm delivering a quick speech here on International Group of Artificial Intelligence from the heart of Bahrain in the Arabian Gulf, and very glad to be part of it. I was just started enjoying Marijn's presentation until he got to the bogey number of 1111 and got disconnected. So I think we will continue listening to him after this. We started with friends such as Echo Emmanuel and others establishing the International Group of Artificial Intelligence a few months ago. Each of us coming from a different background, we started communicating through different conferences, and then we have collectively came up with an idea with the sponsors from UK and Dubai to bring up one of the fastest growing international group of artificial intelligence NGOs, if you like, bring people together. And within the few months, we managed to bring over 250 professionals in AI, and yet to grow and yet to invite people from all around the world. So as we're talking to our colleagues from Europe, we have around over 10 members from 10 different countries in Europe, mostly the people who are in AI ethics and responsible AI. That's why we have some of them today with us here. And then they are key partners and key players in that. And then members from South America, North America, Africa, South Africa, Australia, Indian subcontinental, and mainly, of course, from each countries in the Middle East, predominantly from the Gulf, but also from Lebanon, Egypt, and others. Of course, the aim is to bring more into dissemination of AI into the region and partners. There's a big disconnect today between parts of the world on the understanding of the AI. And the topic that you, ladies and gentlemen, are going to speak today about AI, responsible AI. And we always have these discussions with our colleagues. Does the responsible AI, from your perspective, have the same reflection that we, for instance, in the Arab world, in the Middle East have, in the Asia, in Africa? Maybe yes, maybe not, maybe partially is different. That's why we need to have more dialogues and benefit from each other's experiences. We do not need to establish organizations which look at the artificial intelligence from one perspective and assume that this is applicable to the rest of the world. In the Middle East now, with the huge mega projects and hundreds of billions spent on AI that need to be considered, there has to be a vote, there has to be a discussion between our long-term partners, colleagues, friends from Europe and the West. And I think more and more we have these kind of discussions and associations, we will be better positioned to brainstorm with them. For instance, we try in the IGOAI to have conferences, gatherings, at least once a month, and from this short period, we managed first, and one of our colleagues is here, Philip, to conduct artificial intelligence in sports conference, and that was his first in the Middle East. The next one is later this month in Dubai Expo. That's a physical conference. We'll be talking about AI in judiciary and courts and how that impacts them. And this is something that all the dignitaries would like to hear, the experiences coming from Europe and other parts of the world. And again, next month, there's an artificial intelligence in higher education. And this is something that came up only a couple of days ago, and yet to discuss with the team and bring also, again, the expertise. What we would like to do is to have speakers from other parts of the world, Europe, talk in our events in the Middle East, and vice versa, have people from Middle East and Asia speaking conferences in Europe and other places, and that will give the different dynamics and different perspectives to that. We also have a gathering. Some of our colleagues are joining us in Dubai, beginning of December, with the chief information officers, again, from different parts of the world, to have discussions, have panel discussions. And on the website, we're developing more of papers, bylaws, and experiences to benefit the entire community. And I think the contribution that is key to this is bringing every member as not an observer, but as decision makers in this dialogue. We have also plans for next year to touch every single industry that we can, because I don't think speaking generically about AI is going to benefit everybody. We need to bring industry leaders, their problems, their issues, to the table and discuss them with the expertise who have worked many years on those areas related to the machine learning, AI, and even the ethical parts of it. Is very young in the region, but very much demanding and is moving, and we need to catch up that on how the research and developments in this part of the world, not only to all the respect what it comes in the boundaries of the universities and the theories, which usually does not materialize, the least I can say, promptly, but we need to put an applied part to it. We have to see how they are converted into a real solutions, how the industries benefited from the AI solutions, and not just to make research papers and hide them in probably what we call them in the shelves without real benefits. The countries are hungry to see the real benefits, the quick turnarounds, and how we can develop them. Now, for instance, just to give you a few examples at the end of my speech, that, for instance, the areas of the oil and gas are now heavily relying on that. And there are very much collaborations with companies in Europe and States in those areas, but also from Asia. They are penetrating and having collaborations. These are very important. For us, energy is very important. This is our resources. This is our sources of the wealth. So when AI can help that, it can help in the green technology. As I said, when we talked about the sports, and with His Highness the King's son, he was very much excited to see that's implemented in different sports activities. And we're also looking at going to the different government levels, and the ideas that the vision is coming from the top to bottom, and it's not what only the experts or data scientists puts on the table and believe that goes. No, we always need a sponsorship from the authorities to be able to have a meaningful solutions and dialogues that our young men and women do. And finally, we in Bahrain developing an innovation and research development centers to handle the Middle East market rather than having them imported, with the partnership with the big companies, because they have better understanding. I think I just reached to my 5 minutes, and thank you for listening to me, and good luck with the rest of it.
Thank you, Dr. Jassim. I will just briefly share my screen to confirm before Marijn continues to witness that as a member, I'm also following the growth of the group. So I think that it is even possible that it is having now more than 300 members, because every day new members are joining. So I also invited a lot of people from Croatia to join. And of course, I'm extending this invitation to all that are present at the current webinar. So if I can see correctly, I think that Marijn recovered his connection with the internet. So we are going to return Microsoft microphone back to him, so he can seamlessly continue with his presentation, with his lecture. So Marijn, let's share screen again and continue where we stopped.
Deal. Apologies for the delay, everyone. Thank you for waiting. I was running Python scripts on the back end. I shouldn't have done that. And as I was saying, happy Singles Day, everyone. Because today, 11th of 11 at 11 is Single Day. It's the parallel to Valentine's Day, where you buy stuff and spend money on your partner. On Singles Day, you spend money on yourself as a single. And like all good capitalist habits, it was invented in China. but also very popular in Indonesia, in the UK, and various parts of the world. It's actually today the largest physical retail and online shopping event in the world. It blacks out Black Friday and numbers. And you need one important piece of data for Singles Day, which is who's single? Now, I ran this question by a panel of data experts on is it ethical to use relationship status data for example, marketing, and they said only if they're hot. So I'm not sure if that's the right kind of single we're talking about, but it is becoming a very big question nowadays. Who's single and who are you going to spend money on? Who are you going to target with your ad campaign? Would you consider this ethical? Let's take another step. Let's look at dating apps. Everyone who's a kid tries dating apps nowadays. Is it ethical to use dating apps data for marketing? Because in there, they will know your preference, if you like blondes or, I don't know, buff dudes, or if you like males or females. That's data that's already in pretty much every app group, every dating app out there. But in large portion of the world, liking guys as a guy is dangerous, can get you blocked, canceled, can be considered a crime. So data on relationships, data on who you like, can be actually dangerous to people if word gets out. And it can be used as bias in AI, in algorithms, to sort you whether or not you get a job. Now, we have a lot of stuff in the media nowadays about unethical use of AI. Amazon was recruiting white males and blamed the AI for it. Then they went back to the human recruiting that did the exact same, but it was contested data. Okay, we're giving state citizenships rights to people. Apple Pay, does anyone remember Apple Pay 2019? Apple Pay was basically a credit card system on your phone, but women only got half the credit score because it was a blind algorithm that didn't see gender. It just saw people who had a gap in their resume of 2 years post 30 and people who studied marketing more often on average. So they could get less credit. Completely different than this CP where large portions of the populations are monitored using extensive image recognition models, which in the West speak badly of. Then I look at my Dutch government and we can't even automate a paper process. So who's crazy now? Speaking of the Dutch government, over here we just had the entire cabinet and politics blow up over algorithms and profiling cases. We of course have the EU GDPR being used extensively to manage ethical use of AI. Same time, if you read the GDPR legislation, you find that any use of statistics is counted as AI. So congratulations to everyone in the audience. If you ever had a course on statistics or did a linear regression in SPSS, you are now an AI expert according to the European Union. Congratulations. And simultaneously, we're using all of this stuff to monitor everything from cancer to COVID. Let me give you some example stuff to work with nowadays. This is an example of a hackathon we did where we developed an AI based on HR data to predict burnouts in your employees. So you as HR or as a manager can look at, okay, which of my 10 or 20 or 30 employees is at risk of burnout and should I talk? Which would be hella wrong because it's profiling if you just slap a number onto people. But our algorithm also explains through line modeling why this individual was at a risk for burnout. Too much hours, too long driving distance, age, that kind of stuff. Meaning it was explainable and actionable. And then we had a very interesting discussion, first of all, because our model explained that the biggest risk of burnout having a specific manner. It said that model must be wrong. It can't be my fault. So they blamed AI and the data. But we also had an important and interesting discussion in the long term. Because modern HR is asking all kinds of questions about, is this allowed? Are we allowed to use HR and personal private data in this way to the benefit of the employee, to make sure they're happy and prevent them from getting a burnout? In 5 to 10 years, please remember this, we will have discussions about, are you allowed not to? If you, as an HR department, are responsible for the well-being of your employee, are you allowed to skip and not run these numbers, to not run this analysis, and thereby turn a blind eye to what is actually obvious and measurable, because burnouts are very easy to predict in data, and not act upon it. Completely different examples is stuff I do in Kenya for farmers to help them predict their yield, where you have very personal data on their field quality, the size of the plot size, the quality of the soil, which is stuff you wouldn't want to share because it might be misused. But this actually goes back way, way before we started talking about AI, before we started talking about data science, before all these alliances. Back in the day when I was just a social scientist, I was working on a paper to measure brain damage in antipsychotics, because there's a lot of untested or barely tested antipsychotics out there in the world. And we were specifically testing it on ethnic minorities. Why, you might ask? Because most antipsychotics in the world are only tested on white people, if I may be so blunt. So we proposed this paper to do selective testing on people with an Afro-American background or people with an Asian background, because we had some data that showed that Afro-Americans are at much higher risk of brain damage of the specific types of antipsychotics, I won't mention name, than people from a Caucasian background, which is a huge bias in data, a huge bias that we found. But we were told back then that by the university that no, we can't find us in this this kind of reasoning. Data already showed people were dying of this, but it was an uncomfortable truth, an inconvenient truth, and thus one that people didn't want to see. But it scared the heck out of me, because you can get your algorithm canceled, you can get your AI canceled based on stuff that has nothing to do with the statistics, that has nothing to do with the technology itself. Because sometimes the data doesn't reflect our real world, and the algorithm and data is totally at fault. But sometimes the real world doesn't reflect the data. And that happens, in my experience, just as often. Biasing your data and biasing your society, where you can get your paper that's meant to investigate why people are dying of this stuff, reject it on the basis of, oh, but this we don't want to talk about differences in brain chemistry between ethnicities, because that sounds wrong. And I believe people are dying of that to this day. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because we as a society are really good at blaming the data and blaming the AI for when it goes wrong. Amazon did it. We do it. I do it all the time. I blame my computer if it doesn't work properly, even if I input the wrong command. And the core of responsible AI is actually not being responsible about your computing power, being responsible about what data you use. It's about having the courage to face the truth, that when your data shows something, when your model shows something, don't say the model is wrong. Oh, it's indeed specific managers that do misconduct. It's specific antipsychotics that cause brain damage. Because with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, there's a Spider-Man quote right there. And when I look at the field, when I look at our society and large organizations and governments where I do research, everyone's focusing on the here and now, on the descriptive end. Let's talk about beer. Say you're selling beer. Everyone knows how much beer you sold yesterday, but few actually check out why did we sell that much beer? Was it because of the weather? Was it because of football being on the telly? Or was it because we put beer in the bonus? It's only after you run that causal analysis that you can predict what's going to happen in the future. Well, the weather is going to be nice, so we sell more beer. And it's only after that that you can actually predict, well, the weather is nice and Feyenoord is playing, so we should put our beer in the bonus. And everyone and every organization wants that last step, but they're all stuck at the bottom left. And they want to skip analyzing the causal mechanisms in between, figuring out why in the past that you need to do before you can predict the future. And if you skip those steps, then you get your black box algorithm. Then you are irresponsible. Because at the end of the day, our algorithm, a recruitment algorithm might reject a person on their low GPA or their lack of an education. Or they might reject them because they're a female or the wrong ethnicity. To the computer, it makes no difference. Recruiting somebody with a higher education is biased as well. It's just we like some kinds of biases and others we don't. And that makes the AI just as us, because we as humans are heavily biased as well. But I never see people talking about that. We just claim, no, we need unbiased AI. And unbiased AI is a lie. It doesn't exist. But you can handle it responsibly or irresponsibly. Because at the end of the day, that's a trade-off too between accuracy and explainability. And we as data scientists, as data people, it's not our job to get the assignment, okay, build me a deep learning algorithm. No, we figure out the problem, that is data science, solving data problems using scientific methods. We figure out the problem and we pick and choose and test the right methods to solve that problem. And a lot of the time, let's be honest, that is random forest or linear regression, and that's fine because that's more explainable. And then I have a talk with the data privacy officer, and I start talking about, yeah, I need gender data, I need ethnicity data. I also, if you have it, I would like to know the sexual orientation of the victims, just so I can test if our model is discriminating or not. And that is actually a very interesting thing that you see happening in the market right now, because every organization hired a data privacy officer who mainly says, no, you can't have all of this confidential information. You have to build an algorithm without. But if you build algorithms without, then you cannot test if your model is biased and in what way. So I had a conversation a few months ago with a CEO asking me, okay, Marijn, great model, but are you sure it's not sexist? And I said, I don't know, because your chief privacy officer won't give me gender data. And that's where I confronted them with the effects of that choice to keep that data out. Now I can talk for hours about what other factors are at play to have responsible AI, but the core is not to have responsible AI or to have that as a demand, but to be responsible about the way you handle AI and your data as an organization, as a society, as a people. And that's not buying the right tool or setting the right prerequisites. That's a continuous process, a continuous effort, because most of the important findings arise during and after projects. And it sounds cool and it's fun and I love working in AI, but a lot of the time, let's be honest, this is what it looks like. Those are my thoughts on how with great AI comes great responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Marijn. It was really a pleasure, and I love the examples. I especially like the Spider-Man quote, of course, and the HR projects and examples also burn with me since my HR background. So really, I would like to thank you this time for the lecture, and I'm sure that we will cooperate in the future on our next events. And there will be a room for a discussion, because obviously you opened at least a few very interesting topics. So thank you one more time. And I will then use this opportunity to transition to the next stage of this event and shortly announce the Alliance. So basically the Alliance is founded by 4 organizations: We the Humans from Spain, Futures from France, Beyond the Horizons from Brussels, and Global AI Ethics Institute that is legally in France, but is a French and Croatian organization. So I would like to invite in this order the representatives, my partners, my colleagues, and my friends in the Alliance to share a few thoughts about the Alliance and their institutions. So starting with Juan Ignacio Ruiz as the first one to share a few words about the Alliance. So Juan, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Aso, and welcome to you all to this event and to this announcement of the Alliance for a Responsible AI. It's an honor for me to be the president of We the Humans. We the Humans is probably the first non-governmental Spanish organization working on a responsible AI. We started our activity in November 2018. And since then, we've been focused on 2 main actions. Actually, the action that you can see behind me and on my back, and that actions are really and are actually the reasons why we are participating and we are part of this alliance. One of the reasons and one of these activities is the one that you can see. I don't know if at my right or my left, because I don't know what you're using. But anyway, one of them is the ethical certification of AI. We believe that the peace of mind for citizens about an AI, a responsible AI, is to have a proper certification scheme. And in that sense, we uphold a certification scheme based on the guidelines for a trustworthy AI issued by the European Commission. We think that the dimensions that the guidelines are showing are pretty proper for this certification scheme, and for ensure that any intelligence system is working properly on an ethic point of view, an ethic and a responsible point of view. Currently, we can say you that in Spain are carrying out a couple of certifications in 2 Spanish organizations. One of them is about to finish in 2 weeks, and then we will start with the second one to certify that they are using a AI system running under these European Commission guidelines. And I think I right think that one of the targets of the Alliance is to promote this kind of certification, whatever the certification scheme could be, but the idea is to promote this certification at the European level to ensure that to have in mind or to ensure that any citizen have the peace of mind that the AI is running according to these European Commission guidelines. The second one action or the second one activity is our AI for social purpose contest. We run a contest on yearly basis to award those AI initiatives oriented to human good. We think that artificial intelligence is an element and is a tool for human good. Obviously, we know all the threats, all the problems, all the issues that the artificial intelligence is arising. For example, bias or whatever other issue. However, we think as well that artificial intelligence can be a good tool for human good. And in that sense, from We the Humans, we ran this yearly contest to look for these most important or most significant AI initiative oriented to this human good. And then I think that the Alliance is a good element, a good platform for this target. And even I think that this top AI startups world that we are announcing later is a good point for looking for this human good use of the artificial intelligence. So in short, why We the Humans is participating in the Alliance for a Responsible AI for two reasons: promoting this certification scheme and promoting this AI for good human. That's our reason, and I think that they could be your reason as well. Thank you. Thank you to you all.
Thank you, Juan, for this short overview. It was very interesting also to get ourselves reminded why we are here. So, of course, I would give the microphone to Philippe Blanchard to share his position and opinion, and of course, why he is part of the Alliance from the beginning. Philippe, unmute yourself. The screen is shared, we can see it. And this is it. Yeah, it works.
So let me make sure that we have the right element. I am the CEO and founder of Futurus, and with my colleagues coming from the International Olympic Committee, the World of Expo, FIFA organizing committees, or FIFA organization, we wanted to make sure that everything related to technology was done in an ethical way. And why technology? Because when you work on the future of sports, sport is obviously about measuring, and sport means data. So let me try. As we say, if you cannot measure it, there is no data and there is no sport, because data is at the core of the practice, of the sport practice. It is the essence of competition. You want to know who is the winner, you need to have data. And it's also extremely important in the liaison with the spectators and the fan. And when it comes to the future of sport and the sport of the future, yes, technology is playing a bigger and bigger role, but we have identified the necessity to reflect upon artificial intelligence. As Marine said earlier, it can be an excellent thing. And obviously, when it comes to sports, in terms of coaching and performance management, in terms of fan servicing, providing information about the event, and also integrating elements such as augmented reality, obviously we see the positive element. But at the same time, there are big question marks. How can we ensure the competition is fair if some countries have more information than others, if some teams have more information than others, and therefore they can improve their physical practice or their team play? What does it mean in terms of match fixing, betting? Are we going with predictive tools to kill the drama in sports and therefore to kill the interest of sports? As it was stated earlier, what does it mean in terms of the liaison between the sport and the big tech companies? And finally, how can we make sure that what we are seeing is still the reality? Is it a deep fake? Is it something which has been created based on sport data and the physical appearance of sportsmen and sportswomen? Or is it just fiction? So this is the reason why we have decided to join the Alliance. We think these ethical questions are critical. And for our first Futurus Games, which will stage in Russia in 2023, we want to make sure with the Russian local organizing committee and the Russian government, but also the different governments supporting us, we want to make sure that all these technology developments, including AI, are staged in an ethical way. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Philippe. I'm looking forward for the, I'm sure that I can say glorious games of Futurus in Russia in a year and a half, if I'm not mistaken. So we will monitor them closely. And of course, I think that sport proved to be very important topic and area, both of our interest and in the general, I would say, worldwide interest and application of AI. So as we heard on our webinar, I think that the future of this combination AI and sport is the bright one, I would say. And with that, I would give microphone to Samet, who will give us his thoughts about Beyond the Horizon, what they're doing and how are they participating and contributing to our cause. So, Samet.
Thank you,
hope
Eko.
that you're here. Yeah, you're here. Great.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Samet Çoban, and I'm the Executive Officer and Secretary of Beyond the Horizon International Strategic Studies Group. Beyond the Horizon is an independent next-generation think and do tank located in Belgium, Brussels. Beyond the Horizon aims to promote peace and security, and we do data-driven and evidence-based research and analysis. Disruptive technologies are among our focus areas, and we are committed to ensuring an independent view on human-centric ethical AI and fully support initiatives in this direction. To this end, we are happy to be among the founders of Alliance for Responsible AI. Thank you very much, and over to you, Eko.
Thank you, Samet, and thank all your team for the support. Thanks to them, we are having this event organized in this fashion. So I know that there is a lot of work in the background, and really, I think that all of us appreciating it. So I was hoping that my partner Emmanuel Goffi would be here to share a few words about the Global AI Ethics Institute, but unfortunately he couldn't be here at the moment. So I will just share the basic information. So basically, we are also a recently newly founded organization, and we are dealing with the ethical aspects of the artificial intelligence, but in one, I would say, a specific and interesting way. There are many now institutions and experts in the AI ethics, but also, of course, not enough of them. But what we are trying to raise awareness about is the multicultural approach in the development of AI projects from the ethical standpoint. Because what we can see currently that is happening, that basically there are 9 countries that are developing most of AI products, and all of them, almost except China, are the Western countries. And they are all having relatively similar ethical approaches. So basically, it's a Western ethical approach that is very often based on Immanuel Kant. But what we want to make sure that there is awareness that there are, well, according to some research, 180 guidelines, ethical norms, different systems of values that we can respect and consider while we are developing any kind of technological products. So this is kind of our mission, to put that information on the table, to discuss it and raise the awareness that if you want to have a product that is going to be implemented around the world, then you cannot have your own ethical perspective in defining all of those questions, what also Marijn mentioned before. So we are having members from, of course, different parts of the world, exactly for that reason. We are also accepting new members, and we are writing articles, organizing webinars, and participating in the work of the Alliance. So this will be it about the Global AI Ethics Institute, and I will now share just my screen for a second to come to our second part of the event and to announce that we have obviously the 3 winners of our contest. So basically, we had more than 15 startups applying from more than 10 countries all around the world. It was quite well represented. And the top 3, ranking of top 3, are those who you can see here, and you're going to hear a little bit more about them in the next few minutes. So the first one are the Mindsmiths from Croatia, the second place is LifePeak from Russia, Dubai, and the third are coming from Spain, Instinct Intelligence. So I would give the microphone and the floor first to the Mindsmith CEO, Mislav Malenica, to tell us a little bit more about their company and their project. So Mislav, I hope that everything is working and that you are ready, and I can see that you are. So please, let's go.
Thank you, Atso. I'll share my screen and then just tell me when you see it, and then we can
It's
go.
working and it's
Okay, it's
full screen.
working. So I'll try very quickly just to tell the story about what we are doing. So basically, we are trying to bring the power of autonomy, building autonomous systems to everyone. We have a thing that we call autonomous support systems, and we defined it basically by 3 key characteristics. So autonomous support system needs to actually be able to show that it has like a relevant expertise, so that the advice or the guidance that it gives is actually relevant. It needs to be able like to understand each individual person it's actually helping. And it also needs to show that it actually cares about the person. So it's not like a reactive tool sitting somewhere there waiting for someone to actually turn it on and to start using it. It's basically a system that 24/7 crunches data and analyzes signals, trying to find a way how to create the value for its user. And now I'll just show a few examples of what we already did and where we are actually going. So this is one of the examples. It's Maggie. It's a digital companion for chronic patients when they're at home. And Maggie is solving like one really important problem. And that's basically right now you're getting medical support, advice and guidance only when you're seeing a doctor, when you're in a medical setting. And if you're a chronic patient, and chronic patients are like basically ill all the time, when you're at home, you're left alone. And now we have a Maggie. Maggie is this autonomous support system that's basically every day with users, monitoring their data, calling them down if everything is okay. And if things are not okay, she's basically immediately connecting them with the doctor. She's based on like expertise of like many human experts from Magdalena Clinic, which is one of the leading regional cardiovascular facilities. That's one example. The other example is early diagnosis of one condition called PCOS on like tens of millions of people. Again, using our technology, this digital assistant based on the expertise of Dr. Shruti from Boston University is actually trying to diagnose something that on an average in US takes 6 to 7 years from the first times that you'll get, that you show symptoms. Right now, we reduced it to 3 months because in 3 months, the system can actually figure out that something is actually awkward. It can start actually asking relevant questions, and it can basically very soon find out that there is like that you should probably go and see your gynecologist and do the ultrasound of your ovaries. That's another example. The third example is something we did with Croatian government when the pandemic just started. Basically, on our technology, Andrea Digital Assistant was built. And the whole idea with Andrea was like how to prevent the panic, how to prevent people from overburdening the medical system and so on. And Andrea had like one superpower, and that was like, I would say, very brave from Croatian government as well, because it had the power to tell you, you should not go and visit your doctor. You should stay at home. It was like a machine, an algorithm taking a lot of responsibility at that time. Another thing, so it's not all in the healthcare. Another thing is, for example, in banking. On our platform, banks are building digital systems, autonomous systems that are crunching people's data and finding a way how to help them. So this whole idea is I know a lot of people, I see millions of people using our banking products. I see good patterns, I see bad patterns, and I'm just not waiting and sitting for you to make your decision by yourself. I'm there saying, look, if I detect that you're doing something in an efficient way, I'll proactively reach out to you and I'll actually help you make something better. Also, we have things, for example, how to create better and more enjoyable office experience. So it doesn't need to always be about treating people. It doesn't need to be about giving medical advice. We also are working in the educational space where we are giving support or guiding students how to actually how to be more, how to be better basically at their college, and how to actually build better careers for themselves. So the whole idea is actually, let's move away from these passive, super powerful tools that I need to be super motivated to learn how to use them. And let's move to more proactive autonomous systems that are working in a space where things are not black or white. They're usually gray, but they can make like educated guesses about like what's the next best move. And we need to be able to trust them that that move will be the right one. So the whole thing about Mindsmiths is that creating this kind of effective autonomous support systems, that's super expensive and complex. It really requires huge engineering talent. Also, not only engineering talent, you need to have people. If you really want to touch people in the right way, you need to also have people from social sciences, psychologists, sociologists, people who can actually solve the legal stuff and so on and so on, in order like to create the whole experience that will make a difference. And that was so far, I would say, out of the reach for most of the companies. This was really only for very advanced tech companies with enough resources and enough talent that can actually harness the power of autonomy. And so the whole idea behind Mindsmiths is actually, look, if we want for autonomous machines to help people all around the world all the time, it cannot be just 3 companies building something like that and having a monopoly on expertise and having a monopoly on actually providing that kind of service. We want to create a tool that will enable basically anyone who wants to create something like that to do it. So we created a Mindsmiths. Mindsmiths is a cloud platform that basically enables any company, any innovator to go into the field of autonomy and build something that's useful. It can be autonomous vehicle, it can be a robotic vacuum cleaner, but it can also be a digital doctor, a digital teacher, or whatever. Like we are constantly like getting, when we open this as a platform and a tool, we're constantly getting clients who have like these crazy inspirational ideas like, let's create a digital pet that will be able to create the same kind of emotional connection with the person as the real pet for people who actually cannot afford or don't have like the right conditions to have a real pet, and so on and so on. So these examples are constantly popping out and emerging. But there's also the other side, and the other side that it's true that if you have like a fully autonomous machine, it can really create a lot of value, and we really believe that that's the next big thing for the world. But if it's not done right, it can do a lot of harm. So if you have a mistake, we heard about the biases and how all these mistakes are basically propagated to these kind of systems. And if you have something that's reaching out to millions of people or even billions of people, and there is something wrong with it, it can do really a lot of harm. So trusting autonomous systems that they'll make actually right decisions, that's really a serious matter, and we actually take it that way. So what we as a company are doing, we basically received the venture capital investment from Feels Good. That's like a social impact fund, so now we are actually required to have one of our main KPIs to be actually social impact and how we are actually advancing UN social development goals. So we need to constantly report on that. We have criteria for who can actually use our tool and who cannot use our tool. Why? Because we know that everything that's a powerful tool can also be turned into a powerful weapon. And instead of actually just saying that's not our concern, like people can use it for whatever they want, we are basically saying, no, we want to really impose like very high standards on like who can use it, how they can use it. Then we are also very aware that people who are actually using it and trying to build something that's good, very often because of like lack of, I would say, literacy in the field of AI, they can actually mistakes can actually happen. And so we also are taking very seriously that the education needs to come from our side, the guidance and support on like how to build something that will really create value for the people. Also, we are following the trustworthy AI principles, and we are really welcoming the EU's effort basically to create standards around how to develop AI that people will use in a safe way, that can be developed in a safe way, and so on. And we think that basically all the companies who are in this space right now need to understand that there's like a huge gap between like what's possible to do and between like what public really understands is going on. And because when there is a gap, there needs to be a lot of responsibility about us, like applying all these applying all these different principles and safety mechanisms, so that we really produce something that won't actually do harm and then will create value for the end users in the end. So the whole idea of Mindsmiths is we don't want only like 4 big companies in the world to have access to technology where you can actually build autonomous systems. We really want to open it to everyone, but at the same time, we want to have like really high standards, how to actually, so that people are using it in a proper way. And that's it for me. Any questions?
Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. It's always a pleasure for me to learn new information about Mindsmiths. It was a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but I'm sure that
sorry.
worth it. No problem at all. So then we go to the next company. So Michael will present LivePeak. So Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here. Well, I'll try to stick with 5-minute schedule. So let's get it on. So we're a LivePeak, half Russian, half international company with a bit of history. I would say that the first step has been taken back in 1992, some decades ago, when the founder of the company actually combined his knowledge in Eastern medicine with some of the engineering background that he has to come up with a concept which treats the cause of illnesses or diseases rather than its consequences. And for this vision, the normal or well-used parameters like heart rate and blood pressure that we are used to were essentially not enough. So in some sense, he was able to foresee a trend that is going on right now in the medicine. To understand it better, right now, we see a shift from assessing various, unified, normal things like heart rate and blood pressure towards a more complex or integral functional status assessment. And what is a functional status is actually a complex question with a rather simple answer. Imagine the myriad or thousands or tens of thousands signals that our body sends to our mind and that travel back and forth each second. So this is the concept of functional status. Of course, it implies having a lot of data on how do we operate as humans. But understanding functional status is not enough. Apparently, we need to treat each person as an individual. Let's say a set of psychophysiological characteristics and traits and qualities that is, for example, I might have my resources maximized at my own, certain functional status, while Mr. Philippe Blanchard would have his resources maximized at a slightly different functional status. And in that sense, we need to treat each person as an individual. And that's where, of course, AI or data or regression statistics come into play to deeper learn each person's body and psychophysiological traits. And in that sense, our technologies, our solutions are able to forecast and prevent majority of adverse conditions and illnesses that unfortunately happen to us. Now, of course, apparently it is important, but one of the fields where it has a very large impact is transportation, where 95% of all accidents are caused by human due to tiredness and sleepiness, loss of attention, influence of drugs, alcohol, and medicals, well, stress and disease, and some other psychophysiological disorders. And in terms of money, it's a huge sums lost annually in the EU alone. So we are aiming at working with the roots or the causes of these things. And to help that, we've come up with a range of products which are able to accurately determine conditions leading to critical errors by utilizing more than 40 different parameters of pulse waveform, pulse wave velocity, SpO2, et cetera. And in that sense, we're capable to detect illnesses at their earliest stages and any deviations of the person's individual, well, normal functional status. In time, of course, we were able to continue with that vision and come up with something like an online functional status monitoring, which looks like this. It, of course, utilizes data about person's functional status, individual functional status, and is able to predict things like onset of, well, pre-drowsiness, pre-stress, stress, sudden health deterioration, and things like this minutes before they happen. So we created a so-called end-to-end ecosystem of predictive safety technologies, which is, of course, based on, well, self-learning algorithms. Because in order to treat each individual, as we know, as individual set of traits, we have to further learn the patterns or what actually happens inside the body of an individual. And each measurement gives us a lot of data, and with each measurement, we know each individual better, so we can forecast and prevent the onset of various adverse health conditions. Not to say about the data management, not to say about the data safety, because, you know, health-related data is a very sensitive topic, of course. So we've created an overall system that lets us well, treat the data responsibly, make the best use of the AI algorithms for the better of humanity and for the better of each individual. And in that sense, make society safer. So here you can see some results of the technology's action. We are now present in Russian Federation from the most eastern part to the most western part of Russia, ensuring safety on the railroads nationwide. So we've been able to decrease the number of accidents. We've been able to decrease the number of cardiovascular events among their staff, and that has led out to a very solid economical impact. So to make the long story short, these technologies, they work as a triangle. They are ensuring the balance of interests for companies, for their staff, and for trade unions. And they are not only applied to the business sector or business to business sector, they can also be applied for an individual human, so that we can precisely know and manage our physical and mental resources and learn about the onset of various dangerous health conditions before we know they exist. And, you know, a picture speaks 1,000 words, but a video speaks a bit more, I guess. So in the end of this very short presentation, I would be delighted to show you a small explainer video on how the technologies work.
Наша жизнь – последовательность осознанных решений. И отправляясь в путь.
I beg your pardon, this is in Russian. And now I will switch to English. It will only take some seconds. So here we go.
Our lives are a sequence of conscious decisions. And when we set off on a journey, we used to entrust our nearest and dearest to drivers, train operators, and pilots. It is the responsible decisions they make that determine how safe we are. But even professional drivers are only human and subject to strong emotions. It is particularly difficult to make the right decisions when tired or under pressure. The Life Peak Monitor helps to anticipate such states before they become dangerous. Why is this important? Statistics show that it is the human factor that causes the vast majority of accidents, and the price of a mistake is too high for us to look the other way. LifePeak does not just measure the heart rate. It analyzes the pulse wave shape and even the level of oxygen in the blood. The device is precisely tuned to work with the heartbeat. Its hardware automatically calibrates the device to respond to the owner. Our company has dedicated itself to transport safety for the last 20 years. We have conducted millions of studies on railways, underground systems, and on public transport. LifePeak takes advantage of an algorithm which relies on big data and a wide range of laboratory tests. Using this algorithm, the device emits a signal when stress or fatigue reach dangerous levels, allowing the driver to take appropriate action to resolve the situation. By ensuring that the driver is always alert and aware, LifePeak helps to keep both driver and passengers safe and well. By avoiding the risk of poor decision-making, the driver minimizes the impact of the human factor and contributes to transport safety. The widespread use of LifePeak is a simple step towards significantly reducing the harm caused by road accidents. A step that could save thousands of people.
So I would say this is it. I would like to thank you for your kind attention, and you have my email credentials at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Michael. It was a very interesting presentation. It would be good to have the link also that we can share it later for those who want to see it maybe one more time. So at the end of this part, I would like to welcome Jennifer Woodward to share the information about their project and the company. So Jennifer, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Insight Intelligence, and I'm going to share a presentation with you right now. Can I just get confirmation from someone that you can see my screen?
We can see it. It is not full screen yet, but
it
we
is
can
not
see
full
your
screen.
screen.
Okay.
Yeah, it is not full screen.
Now is it full screen?
Yeah, now it transitioned to the full screen. Yes, this is
wonderful. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, my name is Jennifer. I'm CEO and co-founder of Insight Intelligence. Insight Intelligence is a research performing AI startup. We're located in Barcelona, Spain, and we are a multidisciplinary team of data scientists, technologists, business people, social scientists, all sorts of different profiles. And we're focused on public safety and security. Tell you a little bit about how we got started. Our origin story is that my co-founder and I were actually working on methodology for using natural language processing for automated sentiment analysis and other types of uses for the marketing sector. And in 2015, we actually made the decision that we were going to start looking at the security sector because there was a lot of interest coming from law enforcement agencies in the methodologies that we were developing. And then, as you might remember, in 2015 and 2016, there were some, massive terrorist attacks, both in Brussels and in Paris. And we really began to look at this with a lot more seriousness in terms of how we could try to identify the early signs of radicalization online, not just because these terrorist attacks specifically were planned online. That's not what we were focusing on. We're focusing on the fact that the process of radicalization was actually happening online, and it was happening in spaces like Twitter and Facebook. So we also identified the fact that there wasn't really a tool that was fit for purpose for this type of a use case. We were speaking to a lot of law enforcement agencies who told us that they were using, social media monitoring tools, sentiment analysis tools that were made for the marketing and PR sector for trying to kind of understand and classify this type of information, and really didn't have any predictive capabilities either. So what we did is we built our own kind of proprietary methodology that combines all of these different methods together in order to reach these types of insights. And right now what we're doing is we have deployed it into a software that's called Insights Spotlight. It's actually a software that extracts all sorts of insights, mainly focused for the law enforcement community. But as you'll see, we have a lot of different kind of use cases that go beyond that. Our primary focus is on public safety, but in fact, actually, if anyone would like to have a demo of our solution, we can maybe talk later, but don't have a lot of time to go through all of the features. But I'll focus today right now on the use cases that we're currently focused on. One of the most important ones for us right now is human trafficking. So our system is able to kind of decipher which sexual announcements or sexual classified ads are focused on actually illicit crime. That's one of the most important use cases. I don't know if you've been following lately, but there are lots of cases where sexual trafficking and human trafficking rings are being busted on Facebook, actually, and Facebook is actually one of the main vehicles for this type of crime. Then we have the case of narcotics dealing. Narcotics dealing is happening a lot on platforms such as Instagram. Lots of news has been coming out lately about Facebook and other social platforms not really being able to police as effectively as they could these types of situations. So this is a type of thing that we're looking at with our software. One of our main focuses also right now is the detection of the spread of disinformation, and not just detecting it, which is a huge scientific challenge, but also kind of understanding its spread. So that is one of the ways that our methodology around network analysis plays a role in kind of not only understanding how it spread, but understanding how to stop it. We're currently working with some governments now on projects related to this. And then hate speech. Hate speech is something that I think is it's on the rise in all sorts of different communities. We're doing this to kind of focus on what we can do to protect those vulnerable communities. We've done some projects that we're looking into the issue of anti-Asian hate in the U.S. Right now. Anti-Semitism is quite on the rise in Europe. These types of use cases. So as you might imagine, in security, there are lots of sensitive issues that that we can talk about. Like one thing, obviously, is privacy. A lot of people ask us, why is this so important for you when you're analyzing online content? Because online content is actually public, right? But not everybody knows that their content's being looked at. When people post to Facebook or to Twitter or to any online platform, they're not necessarily thinking about whether or not law enforcement or some other government entity is taking a look at what they're doing. So we really believe that ethics should take a front seat for us in terms of the way we do our work. We believe that our work has major social impact, and it's actually very necessary to keep citizens safe. But we really want to first put in place the ethical security, let's say, in everything that we do. So we as a company, as a small startup, we made the decision that we wanted to build an end-to-end ethical framework for everything that we do. This isn't common in the security sector and the software that we kind of compete with, even in larger companies, but it's something that we are committed to as a company because we believe that there's a lot at stake in terms of privacy and human rights. So of course we follow these, principles. Lots of people say that they do, but we actually really try to stick to it as much as possible. As Marin was saying earlier in his presentation, it's kind of everybody's biased, right? It's impossible to avoid bias, but we do try to focus on debiasing everything that we are working on, making sure that we can identify the areas where we have potential, kind of roadblocks or potential places that we can trip up. So that's really, really important to what we do. I think it's also really important in terms of the fact that, as Europe is now adopting, a new AI bill, AI regulations, in which, many companies who won't be adhering to these types of kind of core principles probably will be driven off the market. So it's something that we not only believe in as a company in terms of our mission, but also as it's a really good business decision. And our ethical framework kind of consists of all of these different areas. We try to incorporate a human in the loop approach. A fully autonomous system for law enforcement agencies is not a good idea in our case or in most cases. So it's really important for us to have that. We want everything that we do to be highly explainable. So we try to make visualizations within our software that will show actually, where everything's coming from, explaining what the original message was and how we kind of arrived at a decision of classifying a certain piece of content in one way or another. We work a lot on the debiasing of our models. We also focus a lot on anonymization and de-anonymization. The reason for that is because in some cases in law enforcement agencies, what we would want to do is make sure that the access to the data or the content that we have flagged as being problematic content is only available to those who have the security clearance to actually access that data in order to protect the privacy of the user that is being, let's say, profiled. We also spend a lot of time kind of thinking about how we can train the end users so they can understand how the decisions were made by the software. This is important also because, in law enforcement, there are lots of kind of use cases in which police officers are using systems and they don't really know why the decisions are being made. And that's actually leading to a lot of kind of false positives or situations where arrests are happening when they really, weren't meant to happen. So these are types of things that we're focused on. We believe it's all really important, and we actually probably, we wouldn't be able to operate our company if we weren't focusing on this now. I want to recognize my team. We have a small but very mighty team. We try to live out ethics on a day-to-day basis in everything that we do. I want to also recognize one of the spearheads of our ethical framework, which is Dr. Berta Viescas, who's our lead scientist. Thank you, Berta, for everything you do. And just lastly, since we're really, really committed to this as a company, what we wanted to do was put together an additional initiative outside of our commercial initiatives, which is focused on kind of triangulating stakeholders in the law enforcement industry, basically, people that are actually working in law enforcement, people who are working in AI as researchers or as developers, and even the general public, citizens, and try to create a forum for them to come together. And we're calling this Datayetica. It's actually going to be a research institution that's focused on advancing transparency and this sort of kind of multilateral coordination between all of the stakeholders in the security AI realm. So if you are interested also in kind of joining us or any information about Datayetica, absolutely get in touch with me. Thank you. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Jennifer. It was a very interesting presentation. I'm sure there will be a lot of room for cooperation. There were questions in the chat about how many of us are already in your database for some of the reasons, but we are leaving that on the rhetorical level at the beginning, at the moment. So I would like to use this opportunity to thank all of our presenters, thank the Mindsmiths, the LifePeak, and Insect Intelligence. Thank our keynote speaker and all my friends from Alliance for Responsible AI. I can again extend our invitation because after this formative phase, we are going to grow and we are going to accept new members. This is our LinkedIn page where you can find us, and those are our LinkedIn profiles. We will be happy to answer any questions and to continue with the cooperation. After listening to the presentations of the startups, I think that all of the jury members are very satisfied and sure that we did really chose the best startups, although the competition was really, really strong. So from my side, this would be it. Thank you very much. Thank everybody in our audience. Let's connect, of course, and let's stay in touch. And I hopefully see you soon on our next event, on our next ranking project. So with this, I would like to close this event and say one more time, thank you all for your participation.
Thank you to you.
And
all,
in this
bye.
moment, we can stop the recording probably. If there are any other comments from the audience, from the people who listen, from the participants, this is a good time. Maybe we have a few more minutes. We did anticipate that event is going to be 1.5 hours, so we are exactly at that timing. So if there is anything else, be free to speak up.
Well, I'd like to express my gratitude towards the organizers of the events and towards all the participants. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, getting to know you, and learning more about your projects.
Thank you, Michal. We appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, like I said, I think that we are going to cooperate in the future. It's always good, and we are going to follow those startups and